Hello students, today's lecture is on principles of centrifugation. We all know the eukaryotes contain nucleus and a variety of membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complexes, peroxisomes and lysosomes. In addition to this, plants contain vacuoles and chloroplasts. Cells also contain granules for storing nutrients such as starch and fat. In order to study the macromolecules and metabolic processes within the cells, it is helpful to isolate one type of subcellular organelle from the rest of the cell contents by subcellular fractionation. Centrifugation is one of the techniques used for subcellular fractionation. Now, what is the basic principles of centrifugation? Centrifugation is a technique used for separation of particles using a centrifugal field. It causes denser particles to settle at the bottom of the tubes, while low density substances rise to the top. In this process, denser components of the mixture migrates away from the axis and lighter components migrate towards the axis. The process of centrifugation is carried out in an instrument known as centrifuge. Centrifuge has three basic components: a rotor, a drive shaft and a motor. A rotor holds the tube or bottles containing the liquids to be centrifuged. Different rotor types and sizes can be mounted on the drive shaft. The drive shaft is connected to the motor, which provides the power to turn the rotor, and thus the tube can be spun at definitive speed. Rotation of the rotor about the central axis generates a centrifugal force on the particles in the suspension. Two forces counteract the centrifugal force which is acting on the suspended particles. They are the buoyant force and the frictional force. When the centrifugal force, which is exerted on the particles due to rotation, exceeds the counteracting buoyant and the frictional forces, it results in sedimentation of the particles. The rate of sedimentation depends on few things. They are the applied centrifugal field, the size, density and radius of the particle, the density and viscosity of the suspending medium. The rate of centrifugation is expressed as revolutions per minute or RPM, which is specified by the angular velocity omega. 1 revolution per minute RPM is equal to omega into 60 divided by 2 pi, where omega is equal to angular velocity, which is expressed in radians per second. Now we have the centrifugal force F is equal to m omega square into r, where F is equal to the density of the centrifugal force, m is equal to the effective mass of the sedimenting particles, omega is equal to the angular velocity of rotation in radians per second, and r is equal to the distance of the migrating particle from the central axis of the rotation. Thus, the force on the sedimenting particles increases with the velocity of the rotation and the distance of the particle from the axis of rotation. A more common measurement of centrifugal force F in terms of Earth's gravitational force G is the relative centrifugal force, or commonly known as RCF. We have RCF is equal to 1.119 into 10 to the power minus 5 multiplied by RPM whole square, again multiplied by R. This equation relates RCF to revolutions per minute of the sample and the radius of the rotor. For example, if the rotor with an average radius of 8 cm rotates at 20,000 rpm, then the relative centrifugal force RCF created is 35,800 G. Coming to the types of rotor, there are three types of rotor. They are fixed angle rotor, vertical tube rotors, and swinging bucket rotors. In the fixed angle rotors, the tubes are held at the angle of 14 to 40 degree to the vertical axis. Particles move radially outwards and travel a short distance. It is useful for differential centrifugation. Here, reorientation of the tube occurs during acceleration and deceleration of the rotors. Second one is the vertical tube rotors. They are held vertical parallel to the rotor axis. The particles move short distance and the time of separation is shorter. The disadvantage is that the pellet may fall back into the solution at the end of centrifugation. The third one is the swinging bucket rotors. The rotor swings to the horizontal position when the rotor accelerates. The particle travels for a longer distance and thus it may allow better separation. Now we have different types of centrifugation. Depending on the speed used, it can be divided into low speed centrifugation, high speed centrifugation, and ultracentrifugation. In the low speed centrifugation, this centrifugation has a speed in the range of 1 to 6000 rpm with an RCF value up to 6000 G. These instruments usually operate at room temperature with no means of temperature control of the sample. Two types of rotors, that is the fixed angle and swinging bucket, may be used. Low speed centrifuges are especially useful for the rapid sedimentation of coarse precipitates or red blood cells as pellets at the bottom of the tube. Second one is the high speed centrifugation. This is used when higher speeds and temperature control of the rotor chamber are essential. Rotor chambers are maintained near 4 degrees Celsius. All types of rotors can be used for high speed centrifugation. The speed range is 1000 to 25,000 rpm with 50,000 G. The preparation of biological samples always requires the use of high speed centrifugation. It is used to sediment cell debris from cell homogenization, ammonium sulfate precipitates of protein, to sediment microorganisms and cellular organelles such as chloroplasts, mitochondria, and nuclei. Coming to the third one, that is ultracentrifugation. It is most sophisticated of all centrifuges. Here the separation is a long process and it requires high speed. So there is generation of heat and thus are provided with internal cooling system. The rotor chambers on all ultracentrifuges is covered with a protective steel armor plate. The rotor chamber is sealed and evacuated by pump to attain vacuum in order to reduce friction. The first analytical ultracentrifuge was developed by Swedberg in 1920. As compared to high-speed centrifuges or microcentrifuges, the ultracentrifuge can isolate much smaller particles like ribosomes, proteins, and viruses. Ultracentrifuges can also be used to study membrane fractionation. Centrifugation again can be divided into two types, that is preparative and analytical centrifugation. Coming to the preparative centrifugation, the preparative scale separation procedure is simple as it requires placing of the sample in the tube, inserting the tube in the rotor and spinning of the sample for a fixed period. This results in two phases, pellet that is the particle which is settled at the bottom of the tube, and the supernatant. This technique is also called velocity sedimentation centrifugation. Relatively heavy precipitates are sedimented in low speed centrifugation, whereas light organelles such as ribosomes require the high centrifugal forces of an ultracentrifuge. It is primarily used for separation and purification of sample for further analysis. Preparative scale separation make use of specific method of separation like differential centrifugation and density gradient centrifugation. Coming to the differential centrifugation, it consists of successive centrifugation at increasing rotor speeds. Differential centrifugation of a cell homogenate leads to the separation and isolation of common cell organelles. The large and small particles in the suspension can be separated by centrifugation at different speeds. For example, a tissue homogenate which contains the whole cell, nuclei, cytoskeleton, plasma membrane, mitochondria, lysosomes, peroxisomes, microsomes, endoplasmic reticulum, small vesicles, large molecules like ribosomes and proteins can be separated by differential centrifugation. After a centrifuge run at low speed at around 1000 G for 10 minutes, the heavier particles like the nuclei, whole cell, cell debris, plasma membrane will settle at the bottom of the tube, forming pellet. The supernatant thus obtained can be subjected to again a medium speed centrifugation at 20,000 G for 20 minutes. Subcellular organelles like mitochondria, lysosomes, peroxisomes will settle as pellet at the bottom of the tube. The supernatant again can be run on a high speed centrifugation at 80,000 G for 1 hour, thus settling down microsomes and small vesicles as pellet. The supernatant can be again further centrifuged to separate out organelles like ribosomes from the soluble protein. Thus, differential centrifugation is used to fractionate cell homogenates into their components. The tissue homogenate contain many subcellular organelles which differ in size and therefore sediments at different rates. Each pellet is a mixture of different subcellular organelles. Therefore, differential centrifugation is a rough fractionation of the cytoplasmic contents which can be further purified by density gradient centrifugation. Now, what is density gradient centrifugation? Density gradient centrifugation can be divided into two types. That is the zonal centrifugation, where the separation is depending on size, and isopycnic centrifugation, where the separation is depending on the density. The difference between zonal and isopycnic centrifugation is that in zonal centrifugation, a density gradient is already created in the tube with a suitable medium having high density at the bottom, whereas in isopycnic centrifugation, the biological sample and the medium is uniformly distributed in the tube and then rotated in the ultracentrifuge. But under the influence of centrifugal force, the selected medium redistributes to form density gradient from top to bottom. In zonal centrifugation, the particles of interest are placed on top of the gradient medium and centrifuged in an ultracentrifuge. Solutions of sucrose or glycerol or cesium chloride or cesium sulfate are the high density solutions which are used to make the gradient medium. The particles travel through the gradient until they reach a point at which their density matches with the density of the surrounding sucrose medium, forming separate bands. The fraction can be removed and analyzed later. The particles are separated on the basis of their sedimentation coefficient. Particles with larger mass and more compact structures have high sedimentation coefficient and they form band at the bottom. Since each organelle has different ratios of lipid and protein content, there is a difference in their buoyant densities. These organelles are separated by centrifugation through a column of solvent with graded density of sucrose solution. The sucrose solution will be most concentrated at the bottom of the tube and decreases in concentration or density towards the top of the tube. So various organelles move down the tube to an equilibrium position where their density is equal to that of this sucrose at that position. For example, mitochondria, lysosome, peroxisomes, which are collected as a single pellet in differential centrifugation, can be effectively separated from one another by density gradient centrifugation. After the isolation, they can be biochemically characterized for their lipid, protein content, nucleic acid content, and enzyme contents. In isopycnic centrifugation, the sample is uniformly mixed with the gradient material before centrifugation. After centrifugation, the particles are separated into different zones depending only on their density difference and not on their size. Higher density particles settle down, less density particles settle at the top, and medium density particles form band in the middle. Thus, the density gradient centrifugation is not just a separation technique, but it is also a method of measuring densities of particles in a mixture. Coming to the analytical centrifugation, these are designed for performing physical measurements on the sample during sedimentation. These centrifuges are equipped with optical system to monitor directly the sedimentation of samples during centrifugation. In an analytical centrifugation, a variety of analytical measurements like molecular weight, density, purity of the biological samples, conformational changes of protein structure, ligand binding study can be made. These analytical techniques require the use of an ultracentrifuge and again can be classified as differential or density gradient. Certain precautions and care should be taken during centrifugation. Few of them are: the filled centrifuge tubes should be weighed carefully and balanced before centrifugation. Tubes should be properly capped and the lid of the centrifuge should be closed during centrifugation. In case of any spillage, the centrifuge should be properly decontaminated and cleaned. Select proper rotor for the centrifugation. Carefully clean the rotor chamber and the rotor after centrifugation. Carefully read the manual before using centrifuges. Coming to the applications, there are many applications of centrifugation in biological science. Centrifugation has been used to remove cellular debris from blood to prepare cell-free plasma or serum, to concentrate cellular elements and other components for microscopic analysis or chemical analysis, to separate protein-bound or antibody-bound ligand from free ligand in immunological assay, to separate lipid components like chylomicrons from other components of plasma, to separate subcellular organelles, RNA, DNA, etc., for the determination of purity and shape of biomolecules. If there is any change in shape and size of the macromolecule during different experimental conditions, it can be determined by studying the sedimentation coefficient. For determination of relative molecular mass of the biological macromolecule by density gradient centrifugation in analytical ultracentrifuge. Here, the sample is kept on top of the denser solvent, and during centrifugation, the solvent forms its own gradient with the sample. During this, physical analysis like molecular mass determination of the migrated bands can be performed. Conclusion. Centrifugation is the process of using the centrifugal force to separate the lighter portion of solution, mixture or suspension from the heavier portions. It is a modern and an easy technique of separation. Due to centrifugation technique, it is easy to separate cellular and subcellular components of cells for research or for any kind of biochemical analysis. Thank you.